President Cyril Ramaphosa has been criticized by Chief Justice Zondo for accepting donations from Bosasa and other unnamed donors despite his denials that he was unaware. Speaking on the CR17 campaign funds, Zondo says the firewall put in place to protect the ANC president from feeling beholden to those who donated to his multi-million rand campaign was not absolute. We speak now for more on this with Professor Sipho Seepe to get his perspective on that report. A very good morning to you, Prof, and thank you very much for availing yourself on this Saturday. So the report reads, President Ramaphosa was asked to address a donation made by Bosasa to his campaign for the ANC presidency. It goes on to say that one of his campaign managers solicited a donation from Gavin Watts as an individual, not from Bosasa. President Ramaphosa was not aware of this at the time. Some of the money went from one account to another before arriving in his campaign account. However, he did meet some donors at fundraising dinners to explain his campaign platform. How should we understand this?
President Ramaphosa, at the time of running for the presidency of the ANC, was a head of business in government, and as the Chief Justice indicates, that he should have known about Bosasa and he should have known about the donors to his campaign. And effectively what the Chief Justice was saying is that he doesn't buy his story, that he was excluded and he did not know. He says there was common knowledge about this funding. And in a sense, some of his testimony suggests that the so-called firewall that he created was not working and was not sustainable. So he was just almost avoiding to say the president has actually lied. All he was saying is that he does not buy his story. Remember, we've also had a similar judgment in the past by the Constitutional Court and also by Tutma Tonsela, that when President Zuma was talking about Ingandla, that he did not know about certain things. There was a statement that says he should have known. So Chief Justice is actually making the same position with regard to Ramaphosa, that your story does not wash.
The report further notes that on the matter of the bank statements, which are not the subject of litigation, he stated that some donors did not want to be publicly identified as such, and his campaign agreed. It is not unusual for donors to want to remain unidentified. The Commission notes the facts of the donation fall out of the Commission's ambit. However, the following should be noted. President Ramaphosa conceded that the ANC should have known about Bosasa's unethical and unlawful activities and therefore should not have accepted the donations. To your point, what then does this tell us about the anti-corruption champion?
Well, I mean, the Chief Justice was almost restrained around that issue of Bosasa, that the notion of that the ANC should have known, and that given the practice of Bosasa for a number of years, and where the president was himself a leader of government in business, he should have been concerned about who are the donors. And in a sense, what the Chief Justice was trying to do or avoiding to do is to open up the whole campaign funding, because the whole notion of transparency begins to come in. But when you begin to say the president must have known, the claims by the president in parliament that he did not know, and the accusation or the finding by the press protector that he deliberately misled parliament seems to be something that the Chief Justice is beginning to open. Because if the court had ruled that he did not deliberately mislead, and you have a Chief Justice who now revisited the same issue that he should have known, and that there is a sense that he had met certain donors. And yes, some donors may not have been wanted to be known, but given the experience of anti-corruption and the corruption that was taking place, and also the view that the Chief Justice said, I do not buy that you were so clueless about what was happening, it begins to undermine both the decision by the Constitutional Court of saying he did not deliberately mislead Parliament, because the Chief Justice is now opening a different angle which may be worth pursuing.
On the issue of levies, the report notes President Ramaphosa was questioned on the affidavit of Dr. Moloi, a career diplomat at DIRCO who made substantial allegations about the role of the party in appointing ambassadors and soliciting payments from diplomats. One of his allegations was that ambassadors were required to sign debit forms for monthly payments to the ANC. However, this does not address Mr. Moloi's allegation, where the president subsequently replied that persons who were not members of the ANC, including himself, were persistently solicited for levies. This was put to the president. His response was, "I do not know anything about that. I would have a huge question mark around that." I wonder what you made of this.
Well, I mean, if carefully read, the Chief Justice was trying to somehow say, I'm not going to let him to get away with it, but at the same time, I'm going to remain on the notion that he should have known. But also remember the notion of the deployment committee, which was chaired by President Ramaphosa. And the Chief Justice also notes that even some of the people who were appointed there were people who were facilitators of state capture. So his take is that the president cannot continue to say, I did not know. Remember, there was also a time when the president said he did not know. And then later he says about it, he did not know about state capture. And later he also said, no, I stayed there to stop the road, to stop the state capture. So you cannot have it both ways. You can't say you have not known and then say, no, I stayed there because I wanted to stop what was happening. So effectively, he confirms without even realizing that he was in the know. So the notion of somebody was oblivious at that level is problematic. Even if he did not know, it is very problematic to have somebody in that position who is so clueless about what is actually happening. But as we see, the Chief Justice politely say, your story is not to be believable, or is not believable.
Professor Sipho Seepe, unfortunately, that's where we have to leave it. But thank you very much for your insights this morning.